right, welcome to the Morning Show podcast studio.
Oh, okay.
This is our studio.
It's the Carla Marie and Anthony show.
My name is Anthony.
I'm Carla Marie.
Pierre is running around.
I don't know if you can see him on
camera. Pierre for
Yeah. Oh, I don't think he's ever heard an applause. It was the first time.
We do have a live audience here.
Yes, it's really cool.
And if you're like, wow, all these people came to see Carla Marie and Anthony talk to each other, that is not what's happening right now.
No.
We have an incredible guest who is going to be joining us here in a second. Just released his 10th studio album.
Yeah.
He's going to perform a couple songs for us as well. Is our guest back there?
I think I don't at this moment, but he said he would cartwheel out here when we called his name.
Promise?
So
all right, Frank Turner.
Frank Turner. He ditched the cartwheel. Yay!
No cartwheel.
No cartwheel.
You really don't want to see me try.
Know that Carla Marie's nickname in high school was Cartwheel Carla.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you do cartwheels?
Well, that was it. Prep rally sophomore year, I fell in front of the whole school and they started chanting Cartwheel Carla.
Oh, that's rough.
And here I am 18 years later and it's still brought up and he didn't even go to high school with me. So
Have you spent the intervening 18 years learning how to cartwheel?
We were doing, a few weeks ago we were doing them in here and he said that's why you were called Cartwheel Carla. So still working on it.
Brutal.
So, Frank,
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You have an insanely busy schedule. So first
I do.
Thank you for making time for us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You were, 12 hours ago, you were shutting down your show in Salt Lake City.
Oh no, actually, well, more like 36 because we had a travel day in Boise, Idaho yesterday.
Oh.
Which rock and roll city that it is. I mean, actually, I'm playing a show in Boise in September, so I should be nice.
It's actually a really cool city.
It is a cool city, and I have a very dear friend who lives there,
That's awesome.
and I had dinner with him last night. So good for Boise, and the weather was perfect. So
Okay, good.
Happy days.
Boise is a great town.
Okay.
I don't know if I'd call it a city.
I think the people of Boise might have an opinion about that.
Anthony's trying to start.
I don't actually know though, in fairness. But it is in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Which is part of the attraction for a lot of people, I think. But now I will say this: we're quite pleased to be back at sea level. We were in Denver, Salt Lake, Boise. It's quite hard to play shows when you're that high up. It's doable.
How do you do it? How do you prepare yourself to perform at altitude, especially if you don't have a day or two to kind of acclimate?
You just kind of know it's going to suck.
Really?
The other thing that we discovered is, so last year I did a residency at the Stanley Hotel, which is where Stephen King wrote The Shining, which is, it's a cool hotel. And that's like a mile higher than Denver. And we got there and we did 4 nights there and they put us up in a chalet. It was probably the most comfortable I've ever been on tour. But we arrived, and in the kind of kitchen area of our chalet, there was just this multi-pack of canisters of oxygen that you can just huff on, and it makes it look like you're doing kind of designer drugs or something. But it's just oxygen.
Yeah.
Just oxygen, and it's great. It's awesome. I mean, well done to the person who thought, by the way, of selling canned air. There's a business model.
I believe, because we do have a live Twitch chat going on right now, and I believe that my microphone may have not worked for a little bit, and I think we are good now. So I want everyone to do a quick mic check, because we are live.
Check.
There's everyone here that can hear us. I hope you guys can hear us, right?
Imagine they just didn't. Okay.
But there's also hundreds of people watching live on Twitch.
Okay.
So I want to make sure they get the full experience.
Okay.
10th studio album.
Yes.
Do you have the same routine or process for each album?
Good question, and sort of the yes and no is the short answer. I mean, no, just in the sense, one would hope I would have learned something over the preceding
Changed
a little bit
since the first.
Yeah, and in terms of sort of the technicalities and technique and all that kind of thing, and then also, people can debate how successful I am at this, but I'm trying not to repeat myself per se. So, people can talk about how successful I am at that, but I want to do things differently every time. And this time around, I actually produced the record myself, which was a first for me. But it is the same, just in the sense that I have this kind of sacrosanct moment of songwriting, which is it's just me and a guitar in a bedroom or studio or whatever. And it's what's a cool song go like? And people ask me a lot, how do you write songs? And the tragically unhelpful answer is you sit around with a guitar and think up what a good song would go like. That's
and
about
then just
it,
figure
really.
it out as you go.
And everyone's like, that's not useful. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. But to dive into murky waters immediately, but I'm old enough to remember the sellout wars of the 90s, which incidentally, when you talk to younger kids, it's like you're talking about the First World War. They have no idea. But to me, all of that ever really meant was just that your motivation for writing is something other than your own best judgment. If you're trying to impress your friends or your partner or get a song on the radio or whatever it might be. And I try and shut all of that kind of noise out and just go, what's a cool song I like? So that remains the same from record 1 to record 10.
What made you decide to produce this album?
So my lockdown. So in the UK we had a lot of lockdowns. Did you guys have lockdowns here?
Yes.
Okay.
Did something happen?
In 2021, which was early doors, in October 21, I did an American tour, and I had a bit of a kind of a stage rap about lockdowns and stuff, and it was kind of landing when we were in New England, and then we got down in the South, and everyone was what are you talking about?
They did not do that.
It's like, oh, okay, I guess I'll drop that bit. So we had a lot of lockdowns in the UK, and when it first started, I was like, I need a hobby, or else I'm gonna drink myself to death or something. I don't know, go crazy. And I decided to get into music production. So I've arranged all of my records, but the engineering side of moving microphones around, setting up compressors and EQ and all that kind of thing. And I moved house and set up a small studio, and I've been producing younger bands from the area where I now live, which is great, sort of young punk rock bands like the Meths and Pet Needs and Ben Brown and all that kind of stuff. And kind of getting my eye in, as it were. And then it was like, the time came around to make this record, and the conversation started about who was going to produce it, and I just sort of went.
Is everyone else on your team around you like, oh, you sure you want to?
Well, there was a bit of a moment where it was kind of like, this is either going to go really well or really badly. But like I say, I mean, I've always kind of been very in control of the arrangement side, which is sort of half of what producing is anyway. And I was like, I just don't really need to pay somebody like a ton of money to sit in the corner and clap when I get it right. Do you know what I mean?
But do you wonder with a producer, because sometimes you get some feedback, right? Sometimes it might be a little critical. Do you wonder if you are producing your own stuff, if you're not going to get proper feedback, or you're not going to be honest with yourself like a producer would be, hopefully?
Yeah, possibly. But I mean, I guess I have the guys in my band, the Sleeping Souls, who are currently still asleep. Swine.
Must be nice.
But they we've been a band for a long time now, and we have a rapport whereby, I mean, it's my gig. Do you know what I mean? I write the songs and everything, but we work through the arrangements together, and
that's awesome.
People will have opinions.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. And it's not saying I'll never work with a producer again, because sometimes the point of a producer is to get you out of your comfort zone and make you do something weird that you wouldn't otherwise do. But that just wasn't quite the vibe for this record. I just felt like I knew what it went like already. And it was like, I just need to make it sound like that.
Well, one of the things I've always appreciated about British punk specifically is I feel like it's almost the most honest music that we get. And that spans a lot of different kind of touch points and topics. But with pandemic PTSD, I feel like that's one of the first songs I've heard that really did a great job encapsulating what it was like to just be a person during the pandemic.
Yeah, well, and indeed after, because I mean, that song specifically there was a conversation I had. I was in the pub when they reopened in the UK, and again in sort of 2021, and a lot of my friends who do civilian jobs, should we call them? They were just like, everything's kind of back to normal now, and I was like, my job's still illegal. Right. Like, what the fuck? You know, so I don't know if I'm supposed to.
You're fine.
You
it's
can
good.
say it
fuck
all.
It. But and it was just this. And like I made my previous record, I kind of made during the pandemic and didn't talk about the pandemic because it was a bit like, Jesus Christ, like enough already.
Well, still going on too.
Yeah, right. And I sort of wanted to talk about other things, but like with this, it was just kind of like, I understand why, and I can respect the motives, but like a lot of people are just like, yeah, we're not going to talk about this anymore. And I can only really speak to my corner of the world, but like in the music industry, there's enormous problems still.
Yeah.
Holes below the waterline, however you want to put it. And it's just kind of like, I think we should probably talk about this a bit more than we do at the moment.
You also mention, I think in the first 10 seconds of the song, a bar in New Jersey.
Well, you say, is it actually New Jersey?
It is, yeah.
Okay, we're both from New Jersey.
Oh, really? Okay.
Was there a specific bar? Yeah.
There is a specific bar. It's in Asbury Park.
Which one?
It's the old Lanes.
Oh,
but the Lanes isn't quite what it was right now, because it's been sort of changed. I did my first ever show in New Jersey was in the Lanes in 2008, and it was awesome.
That's awesome.
But I did, losing my temper in a Jersey bar. Yeah, it's true.
Been there.
Yeah,
Everyone has. If you've been in New Jersey, you have to lose your temper at some point.
It's the traditional thing to do.
In the air, the water.
It's like
I
when you
don't
come
know.
to
I'm
Seattle.
not sure if I'm going to back that fully because I love New Jersey. It's
It's great.
Yeah.
I love it too. But it's just like if you go to Seattle, you have to go watch them throw the fish, right? If you go to New Jersey, you have to just get mad
angry
at a stranger. That's how we work in New Jersey. But also, I do have to give you credit. I think it's on International Hide and Seek Champions, right?
Oh, yeah.
You managed to rhyme Puget Sound.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever heard an artist do that. Macklemore is from here, and I don't think he's ever done that.
Right.
How did you make that happen?
Oh, well, it just kind of fit. And it's a song about D.B. Cooper.
Yeah.
Do we know who D.B. Cooper is in here? Of course you do. Nobody in England's ever heard of D.B. Cooper. And I wrote that song. It's kind of a love song for my wife. And well, in fact, there's quite a few songs on the record that are kind of nostalgic, and there's kind of a reference to a particular period of my life when I was kind of an angry 15-year-old punk kid. And there's a song about my sort of ex-girlfriend's parents, and there's a song about falling in love with a girl in the record shop, and all this kind of thing. And my wife was like, "Hey, like what gives?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." So, and then I went, "Hey, I've written you a love song. It's about D.B. Cooper." And my wife said, "Who the fuck is D.B. Cooper?"
And why is the song not about me?
Yeah. But it is. It's a song about kind of jumping out of a plane and disappearing, you know. But
it is a great song. For people who haven't heard it yet, go check it out. It's very good.
Yeah, but I mean, I was writing the song, and I did my research. I watched a documentary on Netflix.
So good.
What is the weirdest way you've come about a song? What is the weirdest inspiration for a song you've had? Because the D.B. Cooper documentary is a weird
Sure. I mean, I guess I think that like that's I mean, a lot of stuff comes from unexpected places, you know. I mean, I did a whole record of a history record that was all about underrepresented historical figures, should we say. And the aim for that was to pick people that most people would never have heard of, which went well. And we did a podcast about it, and it was rad. But I mean, you know, there's always kind of weird things that come along, you know, like sometimes you see a tweet and you're like, yeah, that's gonna be a song.
I love that.
Or whatever.
You're like, instead of retweeting that person, I'm gonna write a whole song about them.
Yeah, totally. And not credit them. Yeah. No, I'm kidding. Or am I? But yeah, so I mean, you know, stuff comes from weird places, and just little things. There was a song on my sixth record that was about Chris McAuliffe, and it was just like I'd had Chris McAuliffe written in a notepad just with nothing else, just forever and ever and ever, and it was just like one day that's going to turn into something. And quite often that's the way things will happen, you know. You just have just phrases or ideas that just might go somewhere.
Speaking of Netflix documentaries, what is your Netflix like queue? What does that look like if I were to log in right now?
I mean, I tend to watch quite a lot of like true crime documentaries
Same.
when I'm on tour because my wife doesn't like them.
Oh.
So she's just like, "Why do you want to hear about people dying?" And
Yeah, that's usually my
He doesn't watch
take.
me
and
either,
the,
so
and
I need to know.
the thing about it, that is a totally valid question,
Yeah,
right?
you're kind of a psychopath.
Yeah,
bit.
it doesn't necessarily make me feel brilliant about myself, but just sitting there. But I mean, I was watching the new season of Fargo recently. That was
Ooh,
pretty
good one.
good.
I haven't caught up on the new season yet, but you know what? Speaking of Netflix, one of my favorite shows is Peaky Blinders,
Oh yeah,
and they always have great punk songs.
they do. My friend Amelia programs the music for that.
Can we get a Frank Turner song on a Peaky Blinders episode?
I have been taking her out for dinner regularly.
Yes, because there's going to be a new
Amelia.
season. There is going to be a new season on the way.
Well, there's a movie. There's a movie.
on the
Yeah,
way.
I'm fully aware. She's like my neighbor.
Okay.
And I'm just like, hey, Amelia, what's up? We'll see. I mean, something that quite often happens, I find, for people that I respect, and Amelia is very much one of them, is kind of like you become friends, you realize you work in different corners of the music industry, and then you just kind of look at each other and go, let's not, and then we can be friends. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
My friend Paul, who was a massive A&R guy in the UK, he signed like Kaiser Chiefs and all these bands. The very first night we met, we were chatting, getting on like a house on fire. I was in a band who was unsigned. He was an A&R guy, and he just put his hand on the table and went, "I'm never going to sign you. We can be friends now." And it was like, actually, that's
nice.
pretty cool. Yeah. So, and he remains a dear friend of mine to this day.
And Amelia is her name?
Amelia is her name.
Amelia, listen.
Please.
he can't do it, but I can. Please.
Yeah.
In the Peaky Blinders movie, please let's get a Frank Turner song.
Yeah.
on.
Well, we'll see how we do.
See, you didn't have to do it. I could just do it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's very kind.
So it's been a huge year for you. You
Yes.
world record for most amount of shows and most amount of
Most amount of shows in different cities in 24 hours.
15 shows, 15 cities.
Yeah, which
Correct.
I would describe as a terrible idea.
Well, yeah, that's
in retrospect.
so. How did this start? How do you what are the logistics like? Are you in a room drawing on a map?
This is quite a good example of how my world works, which is that I come up with ludicrous ideas, offload them onto my crew, and then swan my way through the rest of my life until the reality of what I came up with lands on me, and I start complaining about it, and they go, "Shut the fuck up! This was your idea.
This is your fault."
I mean, actually, in this specific instance, basically in 2009, I played 24 shows in 24 hours, but they were all in London, and it was for a music video. And I was 15 years younger, and we're all friends here. I was powered by illegal substances, and we didn't have anyone documenting it or anything, and most of them were house parties, and it was just complete bedlam. And somebody was asking me if I was going to do that again, and I was like, no.
I physically can't.
Yeah, and then I started thinking, well, maybe. And then I looked up what the record was, and then I mentioned it to my crew, and they just went, oh. Because a couple of years ago we did 50 states in 50 days over here. We're the third people to ever do that, and I now know why, which is that it's a complete nightmare.
It's a large place.
The Dakotas are too big. This just in. I like it. I mean, it's something in my sort of character. I like kind of. I like a challenge. There's definitely some sort of kind of slightly puritanical masochism going on in here as well. But it was fun. I had a good time. And actually, more importantly, every show is an independent venue. Every show is ticketed by an independent record store. And from some angles, it was an attempt to essentially divert my album promotion budget into supporting independent venues. So everyone wins.
Which places like that, record stores, I often go to independent retro game stores. I feel like those are... They're so hard to keep up.
Sure.
But they're so important to the culture of the community that they're in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I do a lot of stuff with music venues, particularly in the UK. There's a group called the Music Venue Trust, and I am a patron. And they gave me a little patron hat. No, they didn't. I'm kidding.
A button, a badge, something.
They gave me a T-shirt.
Okay.
They actually gave me an award as well, so happy days. Anyway, they're wonderful. Mark, who runs that's incredible. And I did fundraising. That was my other lockdown project, was I raised funds for independent venues, which were obviously all mandated closed for 2 years, which was a disaster. But I mean, I think one of the things talking about the last 4 years is everyone, I feel like the headline that a lot of people talk about is oh my God, there's so much stuff we can do online with work from home and Zoom and all that kind of thing. And it's but for me, that whole experience highlighted the things that you can't do online, because my God, did I play enough live streams for a lifetime. Somebody asked me the other day if I'd do another one, and I was like, no.
Well, and here you are.
Well, we are going to...
Well, no, but as in instead of a show kind of thing. And it's I want to play to an audience. I mean, I love the fact that what I do is ephemeral. It happens once. People who are at the show tonight will see one show. And then if you weren't there, you'll never see it again.
That's cool.
That's the attraction for me, is that kind of... ephemerality to it. Anyway, I feel like we all kind of learned that the act of gathering, the act of sharing space with other people, friends and strangers both.
Literally doing it right now.
Right, is actually something that I think is quite deeply ingrained in humans. And I think that we could all stand to do a bit more of it. And just talking to other people, hanging out with other people, getting sweated on by a band, you know what I mean? All good shit.
What we want to do right now is obviously, we are going to have, you have your guitar behind you.
I have a guitar behind me.
We're going to do a couple songs? Well,
Sure.
not we. I'm not doing it.
Yeah,
damn.
we're not doing
yes,
anything.
you are. Me and you are going to harmonize. You're going to do some cartwheels. It's going to be amazing.
So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. I also want to grab 2 or 3 questions from our Twitch chat.
Sure.
Yeah.
We can come back, knock out those questions.
Gotcha.
Here's some music.
Love it.
All right, Steph, we're going to go to our break real quick. Let me know when we are good.
Without further ado, Frank Turner.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for being here. I'm going to take a risk at this juncture, which is I'm going to play one of the songs we were just talking about, which I've only ever played solo on acoustic guitar once before in my life, and it went medium well. So let's go. This song's called Pandemic PTSD. Panic attacks in the dentist car park, losing my temper in a Jersey sports bar. Safe to say the 20s have been weird. Days are confused in the morning after a 2-year slow-motion human disaster. T-shirt slogans to cover over the lockdown gut and the fear. And it's not just you, and it's not just me that has pandemic PTSD. Haunted by a kind of mourning for the life that we left in 2019. I know it wasn't perfect, but it's what I knew. Physically distanced, all we're in it together, but socially removed from our snickering betters. Far too smart to abase themselves by following their own rules. And it's not just you, and it's not just me that has pandemic PTSD. Post-traumatic stress disorder is characterized by a persistent trauma caused by severe psychological shock or else physical injury. And maybe I'm just being melodramatic, but I didn't used to be this agoraphobic, paralyzed by decisions, also crushed by inactivity. And right about now, some arsehole's gonna say that it's okay not to be okay. But we're way past that, the conversation isn't done. And I won't keep calm, I won't carry on until it's okay to admit that I don't know how to feel about the shit that we just lived through. It was kind of a big deal. And one day it seemed like everybody decided they were tired of trying and bored of hiding it, ready for the next adventure, next news cycle, next catastrophe. We stood in the wreckage trying not to claim that we have more than our fair share of the blame. We got punched in the dick for 2 straight years. We can't move on that easily, and it might not be you, but God knows it's us. We're still black and blue, bleeding in the dust. So I'll level with you if you'll bear with me and my pandemic PTSD. Alrighty, thank you. We're going for another? Are we chatting, or are we going go straight for another? Yeah, we'll do one more. We've got to play a song about Puget Sound now, really, don't we? And DB Cooper, who I don't have to introduce for the first time ever. So yeah, this song's called International. Oh, I should say this. There's the documentary, my research. There was a guy in the documentary wearing a T-shirt that said DB Cooper, International Hide and Seek Champion, and I thought it was pretty good. So this song is called International Hide and Seek Champions. Darling, do you want to get out of here? I've got 2 parachutes and a case full of cash. We've been trapped in a time of hysteria. I've got a hunkering to do something rash. When the coast is clear, we'll get out of fear and start over again somewhere new. Well, we'll hibernate and then wake up late. I can't wait to do nothing with you. Just take a leap before the world goes down in flames. Draw up some deck chairs on the roof. Let someone else take the blame. Find a sunset to drive into. Just refuse to play the game. Jump out the plane and leave no trace. We'll start a new life in the underground. We'll cut our hair and cover up our tattoos. Somewhere on the shores of the Puget Sound, or somewhere else, I'm not giving you clues. And the tales will spread that perhaps we're dead, and we'll encourage you to think that that's true. But in actual fact, we'll get old and fat. I'll bring the cat to keep us company too. With you, with you, with you, with you, with you. Let's take a leap before the world goes down in flames. Draw up some deck chairs on the roof. Let someone else take the blame. Find a sunset to drive into. Just refuse to play the game. Jump out the plane and leave no trace. DB Cooper, now in second place. International hide and seek champions. International hide and seek champions. International hide and seek champions. There it is. Thank you.
Right, now it's my turn.
Okay, yeah, I'll be going.
Okay, one more time for Frank Turner.
Thank you.
Okay, I actually do have a quick question. So our last interview that we had yesterday was actually with Jonah Murray. He's in his early 20s, was in the boy band Why Don't We? And we did his very first solo artist interview yesterday. Lovely. So what kind of advice do you have for an artist like that who's just getting started, going out there on his own, where you're now 10 studio albums, about to do your 3,000th show? That's coming up soon.
In February next year,
it's crazy.
Tonight is 2,894.
That's who's
I
counting?
know this, by the way,
Who's
because it's
counting?
written on the set list.
Okay.
It's not because I have a complete recall of these things. There's a list on my website, though. Some people don't believe me, and I'm just like, go and have a look. It's right there.
It's crazy.
What advice would I give? Don't listen to old farts like me. That would be the first thing.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, like, I think that follow your gut is a pretty obvious but important one. I mean, there's a certain type of person who says, I don't have any regrets. And I'm like, what are you, a fucking sociopath? Like, you know, there are things that I would do differently in retrospect, and almost all of them, it's because I didn't completely follow my instinct, as it were. That's not actually true of any of the music I've recorded, I would say. But like, there are some music videos I don't like. Let's say that.
Tell us which ones. Tell us which ones.
No, because people can find out for themselves. Wow, that one sucks. But
everyone can also give themselves their own answer. Their least favorite video, they're like, that's the one he can't like. That's the one.
Well, then suddenly they might not like any of them. But, you know, and like there are situations I've sort of found myself in promotionally. Not this one, I should add, hastily.
Thank you.
Where you're like, what am I fucking doing? But so I think, you know, trusting your gut and work hard.
Is the 2000 from your tattoo?
That is from show 2000, yes, which was
That's cool.
8 years ago.
Sorry, will you get a 3000 tattoo?
Almost certainly. Okay. You may have noticed that I like tattoos. Any excuse.
Nah. No idea.
The bad news, actually, my friends Vanessa... By the way, Vanessa Jean Speckman and Michael Schnabel are opening up this tour, and Michael Schnabel is, I think, the greatest living American songwriter. And if anyone is coming to the show tonight, they should get there for 6:30 to catch his set, because he will disassemble your mind. Anyway, those two just picked up stick and poke tattoo equipment, which means I'm going to finish this tour considerably more coloured in.
That's cool.
Nice.
And you trust them?
I do.
Okay.
My wife is like, oh, God, when I told her this was happening.
You're going to be like, I got a tattoo for you, and it's DB Cooper on your arm?
That's a great idea.
It wasn't.
Just his whole face.
Oh, that is such a good idea.
Oh, no. She's going to come. Don't tell her the address.
It's going to be a full body DB Cooper with a wedding ring. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, perfect.
But, Frank, thank you
I'm genuinely going to do that, by the way. I mean,
what have you done?
Hold on, let me set the standard for what we're talking about here. So, stick and poke is when you hand poke a tattoo. For those who don't know, and I have a couple already, and Vanessa's really good at doing them. And this is my dumb tattoo leg, right? Whenever I get dumb tattoos, they tend to go down here. I mean, not always. Some of these are quite dumb as well. But anyway, we were talking the other night when we'd had a few drinks about how I want to get a stick and poke tattoo that just says stick and poke. So if somebody says, have you got a stick and poke tattoo? I'll be like, yup. You know, that's the kind of level of seriousness. It's a funny thing about tattoos. At a certain point, if you've got enough, it actually demonstrates that less of a regard for your appearance than more. It's just like, who cares, man? Whatever. It's way too late for me to start getting precious about what I look like at this point.
Well, for people who want to see you today in Seattle, we have 2 more stops, right?
I have 2 more stops. I'm at Easy Street Records at 5:30 p.m., which is just a kind of record signing. I'm going to play a show, a short show, acoustic show. The big event is tonight at Showbox Sodo. He said, getting the venue name right. And I've just been told that there's less than 100 tickets left for the show. So if anyone wants to come, they should not sleep on that. And it's going to be rad. And we have Amigo the Devil playing, who's completely incredible. Bridge City Centers, who are completely incredible. And as I mentioned earlier, Michael Schnabel and Vanessa Jean are opening the show.
Free tattoos for the first 100 people.
Free dumb tattoos.
For real. Yeah. Thank you so much for making time
Thanks
for us.
for having
me. Appreciate you. This was incredible. Everyone give it up
Thank you guys for coming.
And thank you to Seattle Cocktail Club for making this happen and giving us this space. And thank you to everyone who braved the traffic this morning and came here in person. And to everyone watching, thank you very much.
Peace out.